Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for a brand new episode in our Cloud Tank series. Today is Thursday, and we're going to be talking about the different strategies to migrate your applications to the cloud. And Zeeshan, we know that there are several ways to migrate, but there are some common guidelines that businesses and developers should take, right, in order to streamline the process. But before we dive into the different strategies, could you touch on maybe what the discovery phase looks like and the planning that you have to do before deciding which type of approach you should take?
Yeah, thanks, Joanna. This is very interesting topic, and the
Yeah.
conversation today we are going to have will provide you different strategies you can take when you are planning to the move to the cloud, or you are partially in the cloud and you want to leverage the full benefits of the cloud computing cloud providers
Mm-hmm.
offers you. So uh, we call it like 5 R's of migration. So there are like different
Mm-hmm.
R's is like a alphabetic letter, basically R, and
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
it's easy to remember like this way if you have like okay, what are different approaches you can take. So okay, there are like 5 different R's I need to remember when I'm
Right.
moving applications to the cloud. So, I mean, before moving to the cloud, of course, there is a discovery phase, like how many applications you have, how complex the applications are, and how urgent you want to move to the cloud. What are benefits that are critical for you? For example, if you can't handle the load of your applications on premise, you are not able to support your customers, then moving to the cloud is like little urgent to get the benefit of scalability, elasticity, and all different features.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to plan accordingly, prioritize your approach and plan basically. So that's covers in the discovery phase. And For larger organization, this could be years, because they
Mm-hmm.
have thousands of application. Every application is complex.
Right.
But some small medium businesses, this could maybe take a couple of months. um,
Okay.
yeah, and it could be weeks. I mean, it depends on the
Mm-hmm.
complexity of the nature, but discovery phase will give you the feel that okay, what basically the plan is. And
Yeah.
experienced partners could really help you in that discovery phase to identify
Mm.
okay, what are your approach should look like, and what are the key services you should be using in the cloud, and what basically migration plan you should take.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you definitely have to have some sort of outline, some sort of plan ahead of time. So the first common strategy we're going to touch on is replace or repurchase. If you could kind of describe what that entails, maybe some of the pro and cons of this strategy.
Yeah, so the first strategy you can take is to replace your application with some SaaS application, software as a
Mm.
service. For example, you have email servers running, you have Microsoft Exchange server or something other email server that you are managing. It's difficult to manage mail servers and all these things. Maybe you have some compliance reasons or so, but moving to the cloud, you can move to the Office 365 or Gmail or that
Mm.
type of business, Google Business Solutions, to replace your complete email solution with the software as a service solution, like a SaaS application. If the
Hmm.
SaaS applications provide you more customization, I think that is very benefit, and you pay only per user or per whatever
Mm.
license or per seat, instead of like running your solution and managing and handling everything yourself. So that is like a easiest solution in my opinion. If
Mm.
you want to take the benefit of the cloud and save some cost as well, to replace your application with some SaaS application. There are
Okay.
like couple of, I mean, pros of is like it's less administrative overhead because you are now, you know, cloud provider will provide you the service. You don't have to manage all the servers and complexity of the software and all these
Right.
things. And cons could be like maybe limitation in the customization, you can say.
Oh.
uh, if you have, for example, compliance requirement or something, it might be difficult to move to the SaaS applications because of that, because you don't know where your data is stored, and how cloud provider is storing your information. So these are a couple of pros and cons of that approach.
Yeah, so it's less administrative time, but there's also less flexibility, would you say, in certain areas?
Yeah, I
Interesting.
would say that.
Okay, so the second strategy we're going to be talking about is ReHosting, which is a more affordable option, right? Could you touch a little bit more on that as well?
Yeah, so that is you can say most common approach where you can actually lift one piece of software and deploy in the cloud exactly without any changes. That is called like lift and shift approach,
Okay.
also called rehosting. So basically, what is you're running on your servers, you just copy that and run the same type of services in the cloud. For example, another Linux server with the exact same specs, and just run your application the way you are running on-prem, but this time it's running in the cloud. And the main benefit for using this approach is you actually your capital expenditure like buying servers, hard drives, and all these things becomes your operational expenses, like paying only use per use. If you need to shut down your servers in the night, you don't pay for those services. And so that's the biggest advantages of that approach. The drawback could be that some applications might not be uh, easy to lift and shift because they have very tight integration with other applications. So you cannot just copy and move to other systems and all these things. So also, like if you're keeping some kind of a state in the application, like the application must be aware of some data or information that is coming to it on specific servers. It's very difficult to move that application to the cloud because in the cloud you design your solution that your basically your service could die anytime basically.
Oh,
So you have
okay.
to design with the disaster recovery and all these things in mind, that cloud service can stop anytime, but you should have like a redundancy in mind, like how. So if you have keeping the state on a specific server or machine, if that server goes down, uh, I mean, it will impact your application. So lift and shift approach works in most of the cases, but it's not if you have a complex application, that approach might not be feasible.
But for some people that are just getting started who haven't have transferred any applications, this would kind of be the standard.
Yeah,
for
this is the
that.
first step. Like you wanna take the immediate benefit of the cloud computing with the removing your capital expenditures to operational. We call it CAPEX to OPEX. So that's the best approach. Just lift and shift, and you are up and running.
Okay. Okay. So the next strategy is Refactor, which is actually a highly scalable option. Could you describe a little bit more about this process as well?
Yeah, so refactor is like, for example, you hit some kind of a wall when you're doing lift and shift. Then to take extra benefits of the cloud computing, you actually say, hey, I need to refactor my application code to get some benefit of the cloud computing. So that becomes it's like a best option if you do the refactoring of your application, customize your application to take benefits of the cloud computing. Like I said, if your application is stateful, how about removing that state into some other cloud services like maybe a messaging queue service or something else, or another database where you can store that information and retrieve whenever you need it. So you don't store that information in some kind of a memory of a server or somewhere. So you
Right.
use other cloud services like Redis Cache or DynamoDB, AWS, NoSQL database, where you can keep that information. So that is like kind of a refactoring of your application to take best
Yeah.
benefits of the cloud.
Right. But this also is one of the more pricier options, right? It's more for complex applications, would you say? Why is this a more pricier option?
So refactoring also requires some understanding of the cloud services and how your application works. What are the different different services that you can leverage, and all these things comes with it. So it adds up to a little bit of a development cost as well.
Mm.
Plus, setting up all the cloud services accordingly, make sure everything is up and running. It usually takes time to do refactor.
Mm.
There is another option which is more expensive, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it later. But
Okay.
the refactor is most basically give you benefits of the cloud services.
Mm.
And in my opinion, this is the best option if you want to use your existing application code, but cater to the needs where you can work with it as well as take the benefits of the cloud services.
Okay. Okay. And what about revise or replatform? What about this
Yeah,
strategy?
that approach, revise or replatform, comes into action when, for example, you want to replace with some of the vendor locked in products with the cloud services. So, for example, you
Mm.
have Oracle database running on prem, and you are paying licenses and all these things every year with it, which becomes like huge overhead on capital expenditure. You can replace that, basically revise your application to, instead of using Oracle database, maybe you want to use Postgres on Amazon RDS or
Mm-hmm.
some other database services. So that is kind of, you say, okay, replatforming from your existing on-prem into the
Mm.
cloud. Maybe
Okay.
you are running hybrid solution in a sense. For example, some services still on-prem, but you want to take
Mm-hmm.
some benefit of the cloud computing. So, for example, you
Mm-hmm.
said, okay, my application are running on-prem, but I want to replace this database that I'm paying expensive licenses. So
Right.
let's use Amazon Aurora or something, other databases like Microsoft Azure, Cosmos DB or something, which gives you flexibility of backups and recovery, high redundancy, scalability. So you don't
Mm-hmm.
have to do that yourself,
Mm.
administration and all.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you re-platform your on-prem application, some component into the cloud to get
Yeah. So
immediate benefit of the cloud service.
it seems like a good approach for those businesses or organizations that have both like different environments, right? On premise and the cloud.
Yeah. So for example, you're storing files on your computer, and your computer keep there is no space hard drive left. So
Mm.
to revise that, you can say, okay, now all documents we are going to store in Amazon S3.
Mm-hmm.
So you actually move that piece of your application only into the cloud, but rest of the
Mm-hmm.
things are keep running. So
I
then
see.
now
Okay.
there is a less overhead of you to buying hard drive and removing
Right.
old files and all these things, because Amazon S3 gives you flexibility to unlimited storage.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's basically that approach is called revise or replatform. So you can take
Mm-hmm.
some of the piece of your application and move it to the cloud
Gotcha.
and integrate kind of a hybrid solution.
Yeah. Okay. And what about rebuilding, which we know involves like completely discarding an application and kind of developing it again, using it in the cloud? So,
Yeah, so
um,
for example, legacy systems, I've heard horror stories from people like 20, 15, 20 years old applications running, and they're crashing, and
mm,
no new features available, and your customers are pushing you to give you new features because everybody is providing them best services and offers. And you are, for example, as a business, if you don't have a mobile app, I mean, it's very difficult to get attention of your customers,
right.
these
Mm-hmm.
days. So you can't have like a simple legacy solution to your customers these days. In that
Right.
case, like, your last and best approach, okay, if you don't know, like, legacy applications are going to work or support, best option is to rebuild completely with open
Right.
mind and use the new uh, latest available technologies. So I think this is the most expensive options. But
Mm,
also, if you're rebuilding, there is a, I mean, benefit is like you can take complete benefit of the latest and greatest technologies available today,
yeah.
like machine learning. You can integrate your cloud computing and all the fancy bells and whistles with it.
Gotcha.
You
So it's
can,
really for organizations that are probably using traditional approaches, right? And maybe they're making this full digital transformation to the cloud, which
Exactly.
they may see the ROI a little bit later down the line, but definitely a huge
Yeah,
benefit.
and the so that's a basic benefit. Like you are modernizing your application, doing completely digital transformation. The drawback is like how you handle your customers. Now you tell your customer, hey,
Yeah.
now we are going to a new platform. You have to do this or that,
Yeah.
and sometimes customers are too,
Stuck in their ways. Yeah.
yeah.
And
I mean,
some of them don't like change.
even the funny story, like I want to share, like Dunkin' Donuts, for example, they
Yeah.
were deciding to change the coffee cup, and it took them, I think, 1 year or so, like because
Oh,
people are
wow.
so used to have certain cup size and stuff like that,
Aesthetic.
and they don't want to lose customers, so they did some experiment and all these things. So they do offer some stores to actually try that approach, offer new
Okay.
cups and see feedbacks and all these things.
Wow.
So it's I mean, it's a complex thing, like rebuilding, and then maybe it could be a very good option if you are if your digital transformation. I mean, is great, but it could be very risky as well. You have to redefine your SLAs and everything. Okay, how this
Right.
new software will work and all these things. So I mean, yeah, rebuilding should be your last approach, in my
Yeah.
opinion. But yeah, I mean, these are like 5 different R's we talked about.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's great. And especially, yeah, I mean, for those who are taking a more traditional approach, in order to stay competitive and relevant, they almost need to, I feel like those who haven't already adopted the cloud have to in some way in 2021 and moving forward. So thank you so much, Zeeshan. That was a lot of good information. We hope you all enjoyed it as well. If you have any feedback, let us know in the comments as well. If you're watching this on the video version, if not, just send us an email for future topics that you want us to touch on in cloud computing. We'll be back next week for a brand new episode. Thank you so much, Zeeshan, for being here, and we'll see you guys then.
Yeah, thanks everyone for listening, and visit our website www.datanextsolutions.com, and would be happy to hear your comments and feedback on it.
Yeah.
I mean, Joanna, keep bringing these great topics.
Yes.
It's a very cool information, in my opinion, like
Yeah.
educating our customers and people around the world, like what different approaches how they can take cloud computing benefits and so.
For
So
sure.
yeah, I'm looking forward for the next topic. So thanks again.